ever feel alone in the culture war or see everything around you crumbling to ashes and dust and you're kind of tired of it, but you feel like there's no one out there that would support you? Well, I've got 3 sites that actually might change your mind. So, first we have MetaPCs. MetaPCs is a fantastic PC making company. They'll have pre-mades, they'll have all sorts of customs that you can make. You can get cases, possibly engravings, and all that type of stuff. Like whatever you want, they can get it working for you. And they've got some pretty snazzy stuff. So check out MetaPCs. You can use the Geeks and Gamers code, which is 199, in order to get a percentage off of whatever you want to purchase. Check them out. Another one that's also really good is DEG Mods. DEG Mods and ayakamods, which I will show you in a second, both share a common enemy in Nexus Mods. So if you've ever tried modding a game, Nexus Mods has been more pro-censorship and not allowing you, the gamer, to pick what you want to pick, play what you want to play, and mod your game the way you want to mod your game, because they don't believe you have the right because it might be politically inconvenient for them. So both DEG Mods and Ayaka Mods are both alternatives, and there are others, but these are the 2 main ones that I've heard about that can definitely change your view on who's out there and who's supporting what you yourself are looking for in any type of game or otherwise. Modding sites can be not safe for work, so please use your own discernment and know that you're not alone. There are other people like myself and Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, and the hundreds if not thousands of other channels that are trying to do something good in the YouTube sphere against this pretty nasty counterstroke against us. So check out those 3 sites if you are interested in supporting those that support us. I make no money off of this. This is purely because I support what they do. So have a great day. Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here to hang out with myself and Omega Inquisitor Metastic. That's a mouthful. How are you, good sir?
Doing okay here in the anus of America, New Jersey.
I mean, you're not wrong. It is definitely the anus. Anyway, we'll just jump into the topic, I suppose. Try to keep this a bit shorter if possible. You know, that's not possible, but we'll
Across
try
the
it.
Great Nose Lane, let's get it on.
So, interesting in the world of gaming and Europe. If I can find my tab. The new UK Video Games Council has announced its members, including reps from Larian Studios, Microsoft, and non-profit advocacy groups like UKIE and TIGA. Now, I was excited and nervous when I saw this because I love Larian Studios, and I don't know if I want them to be in this group or not because I don't know exactly what the group is, but we'll figure it out. So,
Well, this group is an advisory board. So what will happen is they'll answer to a group of MPs. Those are your members of parliament, right? And they'll be so an MP. The way it works is when this bill gets put forward, any bill gets put forward. Let's say about, I don't know, the color blue in video games, something straight crazy, right? Um, that, like I said, everything that affects that issue has to be in the bill to be valid law. Like they can't, or has to be referenced in that bill. For example, if the color blue, let's say they want to cover what happens if in real life someone assaults someone over the color blue in a video game, they have to include language that refers to what assault and battery is legally, and say in this other bill, blah blah blah, we define assault and battery, or they have to define it in the bill. That's the way the law works, and so this advisory council will be a primary group that referees those sort of things. There'll be a bunch of lawyers on it who, when the bill comes forward, they'll say, put this language in, put that language in, take this language out, change this, make sure you're referring to um, EU Parliament Act 14B in 2022 or whatever, that sort of thing. That's what they'll do.
And that may be the case. I guess we'll have to just wait and see if that's actually what they end up doing. But it says, despite showing signs of ill health, video games are still an enormous slice of the worldwide entertainment industry, making more than 100 billion across the globe each year, which is more than the film and music industries combined. The UK government is finally giving us some blooming recognition for this fact, announcing the formation of a UK Video Game Council and its creative industry sector plan late last month. Shared via a press release, the Council is designed to work in partnership with government to support the growth, innovation, and international reach of the video games and interactive entertainment industry. It'll cooperate with the UK's Minister for Creative Industries, Arts and Tourism, Sir Chris Bryant. Now, the one thing I have questions of is Larian's not a UK company. Like, they're like Czech or Polish or something. Like, they're.
This is an EU thing.
But the UK is not part of the EU.
No, they're okay.
This is a UK Video Games Council.
Well, the European Union is the result of a series of treaties that occurred.
It's a result of a lot of screw ups.
No, there was a series of treaties that started in after World War II, basically, to keep it simple. And every time the new round of treaties would come out, the countries would go further and further unified until the EU formed in 1990 or whatever it was, right? So the UK pulled out of the EU part of that treaty, but there are still previous versions of that treaty that they are in. And even though they're not in the UK, they had to form a working arrangement with them. So they are still involved with the UK. It's always saying when France is not in NATO, but still works with them.
Well, it says twice a year this council will meet up to, quote, provide strategic advice on how to unlock the full economic, cultural, and educational potential of the UK games industry, end quote. In the same press release, the members of the council revealed, and fair play to our government, this looks like a decent spread of representatives from around the industry. Now, Microsoft being on this is very concerning, but Larian hopefully can counterbalance that. The organization's co-chairs are Jason Kingsley, CEO at Rebellion, responsible for Atomfall, Sniper Elite. I hate Sniper Elite. It's so terrible. Alongside Nick Button Brown, chair of Outright Games, a children's game publisher. As for the other members, rather than just throw a list of names at you with zero context, I've gone ahead and found some context, creating a larger, more complicated list. You're welcome. Emily Bailey, CEO of Green BIT, a software company that, best I can tell, is aiming to help the industry reduce its carbon footprint, because useless is basically what it is. Saad Chowdhury, CEO of Miniclip, a flash game website from back in the day, who apparently has gone full games publisher. They're mostly concerned with mobile games like Subway Surfers. Again, useless. Mobile games aren't games. Charu Desot, studio director at Interior Night, the indie dev that made it As Dusk Falls. I don't know what that is. Kirsty Rigdon, CEO at Future Lab, the studio that made Power Wash Simulator, because oh boy. Dave Gould. Gould. It's a Stargate reference. Senior Director of Sales UK and Export at Take-Two Interactive. They could suck a dick. A massive publisher that handles Rockstar, Gearbox, and the mobile games dev Zynga. Again, suck a dick. Gris van der Kuil. Why is Van der 2 instead of Vander? Just like one word, whatever. Chairman at 4J Studios, who handled...
It's probably actually Dutch and not American.
Van der Kuil. Is that better? Who handled the console port for Minecraft, among others. Donna Orlowski, COO of Chucklefish, who used to publish Stardew Valley, also known for developing games like Starbound and the upcoming Witchbrook. I know Stardew Valley out of that list. Nick Poole, CEO of I almost said UKIE, or the Association for UK Interactive Entertainment, a non-profit trade organization that existed since the early 90s, previously called the European Leisure Software Publishers Association until 2002. Tara Saunders, studio head at Larian Guildford. Larian Studios developed a little game called the Baldur's Gate 3, as well as the Divinity Original Sin Scaries. Those are fantastic games, I might add. Divinity as well as Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't realize Tara Saunders was the studio head. I thought that was the prior guy that worked on it. Okay, but I guess maybe he's the owner versus the CEO. I don't know. He's probably the CEO, not the studio head. Um, Maria Science, CEO of Us Two Games, who developed games like Monument Valley and Assemble with Care. Nobody knows what that is.
So they have a whole team of video game insiders, basically.
More or less. Tim Varney, senior corporate counsel at Microsoft, a company that's only been growing its influence in the past years via Xbox, growing a little too fast, perhaps. Yeah, I don't like them being there. Dr. Richard Wilson, CEO of TIGA, also known as the Independent Games Developer Association, another UK based nonprofit that was founded in 2001. Well, the phrase UK Video Game Council makes me as wary as any other properly patriotic Brit. The selection above genuinely seems solid at first glance. I'm not sure why or what a twice yearly session can do for the UK games industry, but the selection of UK based indie studios, advocacy groups, and the inevitable representations from industry titans does seem like a good faith effort to hear everybody out. Hopefully, it'll go better than the one time the Tories made a Discord server.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's kind of the news, and I gotta say, I'm more in line with you when it comes to when government gets involved. It's annoying, but at the same time, it could be good, it could be bad. Yeah, and I'm leaning more, and it's going to be bad. With Larry in the group, I think that'll be a good balance to whatever nonsense is pushed. With Microsoft being there, it's going to be heavily profits pushed,
well,
and
no, you need to understand. No matter what anyone claims, profits are always the motive. You know what I mean?
no. I'm saying that, but I'm saying like profit at the expense of a good game or at the expense of whatever the case might be. Because the idea is, oh, we'll make lots of profit, but they actually lose money because their concept of what profit is misguided. They think profit is, we make slop, people buy slop, we made profit. That's
Well,
not how that works.
again, just because they think doesn't mean they think correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
More often than not, they don't.
yeah. Well, that's the nature of reality. Failure is always far more common than success.
Well, because there's more idiots than there are intelligent people.
No, it's just it's the nature of
Yes.
reality. Well, I mean, if failure wasn't more common than success, 99.9% of all animals ever live would not be dead. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, there's a lot more reasons for that. That's things happening in a particular order that's very unfortunate for the few that actually get hit by it.
what I'm saying is, we're designed by nature, whether you attribute nature to coming from God or from random chance. We're designed to try over and over again until we succeed, not to succeed once all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, try over and
So,
over again if you're still alive to do so.
yeah. So like this whole notion of, you know, it drives me crazy. This is a little bit of an aside, but whenever I hear about any issues being discussed, um, it like who don't understand that we're flawed people, all of us, and
Speak for yourself.
you're not always going to succeed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get that, but somehow somebody succeeds in the video game industry because of carbon footprint stuff. That's not that's something that should have failed.
well, it did fail. I mean,
Well, it didn't because they're still around and they're right here.
because sometimes failing happens over and over again. It's like, it's
Like, ironically, if every software company that was making video games, movies, whatever the company was that was like making stuff, put efficiency at the top of their list, they would make one, more profit, and two, reduce their carbon footprint by definition. But when somebody that goes in, they don't have that plan, like Hollywood when they have to do reshoots 150 million times. So there you go. And you could literally just say, hey, I have this plan, this is the goal, this is the thing. Like literally it, and maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me and I'm thinking more logically in the aspect of like, give me control of this particular studio or this particular thing and I'm going to make something really cool. We'll have the plan from start to finish already preset
yeah.
and we'll just jump right in it. We'll make the thing, we'll sell it and we'll make money, but we'll make people happy, which is what
Yeah.
will make us money. It's like if you have your ducks in the correct order, you're fine. If you have your ducks in the incorrect order, you're like, yeah, we made lots of money, but we didn't make as much as we wanted to.
But
And
the
now
other
everybody hates us, and we have to close the studio and
the
fire everybody.
other side of that is true too. Sometimes you make a great product, but because you fail at the business side of it, it goes nowhere. You know,
Sure, and you can fail the business side of that, but you have usually things in place as part of the efficiency to prevent that part from going down. Being like,
well, you don't. No, they don't. That's the thing. Um,
I mean,
there are countless number of great ideas or great business models or great movies or great games or great books or whatever that it came into existence, but the business to sell them failed completely and they became forgotten. That's why you have like one hit wonders in music, right? So the band comes out, it's a great band, puts out one or two great songs, but because of a horrible business model, like meaning the band members aren't like managed properly, or whatever, they collapse and never had talent again. You know,
the Beatles.
well, there was Justin, there was well, they weren't managed properly. That is correct. They
Yeah.
that whoever had influenced those guys let the dispute between Paul and well, between all the Beatles except for Ringo, really, Paul, George, and what's his face, Yoko Ono's husband, son Sean, Lennon, right?
Oh,
Uh,
I don't know any of them. I didn't grow
oh,
up on the
John
Beatles.
Lennon. So not yeah. So um, like for those who don't know a little history of the Beatles, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, and the drummer for Ringo. And because of a business dispute, they fired the guy before Ringo and brought Ringo in. And Ringo was always was there because yes, he was talented, but he would never fight with them at all. He would just say, "I want to play drums," and just give me the music. You know what I mean? And well, he had the right idea. Unfortunately, the other three guys fought all the time, especially John and Paul, and that ultimately led to the Beatles breaking up. You know, and they blamed Yoko Ono for it, when in reality it was those three guys butting heads even before Yoko Ono got there. You
I
know,
mean, I would still blame Yoko Ono because she is horrific in every way imaginable.
maybe, but the point is they were butting heads before she even got there.
Sure,
She,
and that might be the case, but usually it it helps when there's that one person on in the band that is kind of like the glue that holds everything together, and then you're like, guys, let's calm down.
well, I'll give you the
Let's get our shoes on.
counterexample, right? The band Queen. Those guys hated each other. They were very competitive. Not they hate each other, but they were constantly fighting to get their songs on the album and all that. But they didn't break up. They were managed properly. They kept their egos in check. They,
Which is
and
rare.
if Freddie hadn't died in 1992 or whatever, um, the Beatles, the Queen would probably still be together.
Well,
You know,
assuming they didn't overdose on random drug elements, but yes.
no, Freddie died from HIV.
I know, but
Uh,
I'm saying if they had survived, typically
well,
people like that in the rock
Queen,
star would go down the path of
Queen
drug
never had a
use.
drug problem the way other bands had.
Well, we
Um,
don't know how long that would last. That's my point. But
no, they
that
were.
seems to be the normal route for music these days.
You know,
But then I
it,
also
it,
think most music these days is trash, so that's a different story.
that's not the point. The point I'm making is that when
That
you
is
have
the point. That's the only point that matters.
you
It's
know,
trash.
you can have a great idea, right? And it can be derailed not by the idea. The idea can be great, implemented great, but marketed horrible. You know.
Sure, marketing is very important,
Or
and
I'll give you an example. Right,
these games don't
Tolkien,
want to
right?
know that.
People don't realize, but in his life, Tolkien really only published a very small amount of material, and because he himself was a horrible like businessman for his own stuff, he would never finish stuff enough. Like he could have finished parts of the Silmarillion and published it in part, right? But he didn't. He wouldn't want to do. He wanted the whole thing all or nothing. You know, bad business model. And he was like that in his academic career, where he would write part of a paper that was great and never really finish it because he didn't think it would be perfect. And he just so when someone went looking for all his old papers, they found like hundreds of stuff that had he just cut it down a little bit and published it would have been a great paper. You know what I mean? And like there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of that in anything. And what that just shows us is you as a system, we succeed far less often than we fail. There's so much success is so rare, should be treasured and valued and worked towards. You know, that's why I succeed in IT. I understand, unlike most of the morons I worked with over the years, okay, that I have to sublimate my ego and my personal. I want the project to succeed, so I will do what it takes for the project to succeed. Or I will work with other members. I will understand their jobs, blah blah blah, and that's why I had a good reputation and succeeded far more often than I failed.
Yeah,
Because
you put the
I,
effort and the time and everything into it.
I understood the process involves failure and worked properly to moderate the failure, as opposed to many people who come in like can I give a good example without breaking uh this is a classic. Um so I had to put in a system called NICView, which would allow parents of NICU babies to remotely monitor their babies, right? Because they couldn't always be in a hospital. Um
Yeah.
and it's just as a without doing the long and short of it, it's a complicated system with a lot of moving parts, right? And for some stupid reason, they didn't bring me in from the beginning. They brought me in after 6 months or a year of them doing stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, Matt, all you have to do is implement it. So I'm looking over the stuff, right? And I'm
It's
like,
terrible.
um, where are I have to have two servers. Where is the $40,000 you need for those server licenses? Where are the arms to mount the things on the wall? Did we ever do? And I go, just order them. Here's the quote. Do we ever have anyone come in for this company and check? Because look at all those glass walls. Where are they going to mount all these things? You look both into the wall. None of that was in it at all, right? Because they didn't understand you have to think of all the ways things could fail so you succeed. And I got that all done. Thinking things are going perfect. And one day we're trying to plug in this so we get the system is all installed, right? And it's not working. And I go into the closet and my switch is there and my patch panel's there and they're not connected. So I call the networking guy. I'm like, Nick, not Nick, Dom. It was Dom was on this job. Dom, why aren't my patch panels patched into my switch so my cameras can connect? And he goes, well, I didn't have any patch cables, and I figured if they're important, you tell me about it. And I'm like, what the we're going live today. And I got it to work. I scavenged 42 or whatever of those patch cables, some of which were 12 feet long. It's like when you really need a 3-inch cable. Um,
Yeah.
and I got it to work because I figured do what I do. But that's the mentality. They don't plan to fail. They checklist and think you succeed just by accident. And that
Yeah.
mentality is so common. How many great you know oh yeah, we talk about Robert Jordan all the time, right? The guy planned to fail, meaning he knew he was going to die and made it so his greatest work could at least be partially completed by someone else,
And
right?
he could preserve it and have it continued where he wanted it to go, and then
Yeah.
people could
So he
enjoy it.
planned to fail. He knew he was going to die.
Not like
And
George R. R. Martin.
well, that's a whole separate issue.
He
I'm
is
not
an issue.
I'm talking about Jordan that understood the process involved failure and was like, I'm going to die. It's going to fail. I'm going to plan for that. And we got at least an okay completion to the series. You know what I mean? Flawed, but okay. And too many people don't understand that. And they it, I don't know. I mean, maybe I just value my experience on this earth more than
I
others
mean,
do.
I understand where you're going with this, but I'm a very firm believer in efficiency, and like when I'm at work, I notice how very little people actually care about efficiency. Like they just don't care. They come to work and they don't care. And I'm like, me coming to work and being the only person who cares makes me not want to care about my work because I'm trying to give 130% effort or 200% effort, and then everybody else is giving 20% effort, and then it's just
Well,
like I'm not getting rewarded for my effort. And if anything, they'll find little things that they can nitpick on you, and then you're just like, well, if you're gonna nitpick me at 200% effort, you're gonna nitpick me at 20% effort. So I might as well do the 20% effort, right? Like it's
well,
really
I mean,
irritating, but it's also against my nature to give 20%. It's my nature to give 110% plus, because I want it to come out the best. When it succeeds, I want people to say, yes, I'm responsible for that. Nobody else was responsible for it because I was the one who took the initiative. I'm the one who did all this extra work because I want something to actually be good. But unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't work that way. And it's very infuriating. But if I would agree with you, and that's how I feel. And I think that if more companies did this, because I've already thought, like, if I can get my own game company up and running and I could do that, I already have things in place that I'm like, this is how this is going to run. I want to encourage any developers, artists, musicians, whoever we have to get, excuse me, for the game to function. I want to encourage everybody and say, hey, if you've got an idea, feel free to come. You get full credits for your ideas and all that type of stuff. We're just here to make the game look freaking snazzy.
Well,
And
like I said,
we want to have a fun time doing it. It's pretty easy.
the majority of successful companies with product kind of at least partially do that. You know,
My problem is I need a smooth talker, somebody who's like the salesperson, like where he can go into a room full of investors and just basically sell them the world. I don't have that. I could sell you something based off of stats, or I can like, what are you looking for when you want to use this? Because I used to sell computers, and I was like, what do you need? What are you looking for? I just need it for emails. And I'm like, do you have any aspirations for anything beyond emails? No. Okay, then you want this really cheap pile of junk because it's all it does. It's just bare minimum stuff. It'll do what you want.
yeah.
But I'm like, but if you want something that you can grow into, that if you ever decide to do more than just emails, get this next more average pile of junk in the middle, and it's not that much more, and you can get what you want. But if you want the cheaper one, you can get the cheaper one. It'll do what you want, but you may end up, depending on if you ever have more aspirations, you may end up wishing you had paid a little bit more instead of having to get a whole other kit to do what you want to do. So instead of paying 200 and then 400, you could pay 400 and then be already there. But
Yeah.
I always let people, like, I would never sell somebody I would not utilize myself and or enjoy myself. That's just not what I do. So when I recommend a game, or I recommend music, or I recommend this or that, or whatever the case might be, I'm recommending from a position of, this is what I would use. This is what I would play. This is what I would watch. This is what I would listen to. Because I'm not going to give you something, which is why I'd be a terrible salesperson in terms of like a used car or something. Like, I'm not going to sell you something I wouldn't buy. I'd tell you like where to go. Like, yeah, we don't sell that here, but go to that store like a mile down the road. They'll have what you're looking for. Like, my bosses would hate me back then. Just because I could win the customers, but the sale aspect, like, I couldn't walk into an investor room and convince them, yes, give me $4 million so I can build a really cool game that you can make money off of. I can't do that. But if that was the case of what we actually got to go, and it's like, well, yeah, now they can hire people, we can start working on projects, blah, 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 blah. And I feel confident enough to say that the first game I ever release might not be a knock it out of the park kind of thing, but it would at least do well enough that it would pay for everything that I had to spend for, and make enough more to be able to go confidently jump onto the next product.
Well, you would hope that.
Well, no, I feel confident enough because of my ability to be efficient and to guide a creative process and tell people, like, this is what I need.
Remember, there's always external factors.
Sure, there are, but my brain typically tries to account for those, or has people like yourself that can account for those things, so I can anticipate those things.
Sometimes things are out of your hand.
I understand this. There are things like, that happen, but the thing is that's going to happen to anybody. That could happen to Larian Studios, it could happen to CD Projekt Red, it could happen to 2K games, like it could happen to literally anybody. So me worrying about those things doesn't make much sense, as much as, what do we want to make? Here's the stuff, here's the plan, here's how I want to do this, here's the dialogue, here's the characters, here's the path choices, here's the items, here's the world, blah, 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 blah. And then just jumping on it and saying, we're going to give the best attempt we can possibly give. And then from that, people will hopefully like it. I mean, I can't force people to like something if they don't like it, but at least what I can do is say, in the genre of video game type I'm making, I can at least make it appealing for somebody who's playing the game, they're not going to just like play it and be like, "Oh, this is terrible. I can't believe I had this experience." And then hopefully through that, word of mouth spreads, and then you can make more money. But you can only do what you can only do, and it also depends on who you have on staff. So, I mean, for my part, I would like to do that kind of stuff, but it's a very expensive business to jump into, and yeah. But what are your thoughts on an organization like this existing in the UK? Because as we know, if it happens in one company or in one country, it can technically affect multiple countries. And do you think it'll be a positive outcome, or do you think it'll be a questionable? Because
Well,
with Dave Gould there and Emily Bailey, CEO of Greenbit.
nothing happens when the goal will infiltrate your system. You know,
That's
nothing
a
good happens.
funny, creepy bestiality way to say that, but yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that Microsoft being in there, I'm a little concerned. But some of the other stuff,
Well,
I'm
I
actually
mean,
looking
this
forward to
is the
this.
way participatory democracy works. Okay, you have you have collaboration between your elected officials, your unelected bureaucrats, your private economic interests, your citizen groups, and all that. And in theory, enough uh, amalgamates out of this to produce something positive rather than negative. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing about Western governments that we have are that they're designed by purpose to be inefficient, so that if you fuck up, it doesn't break the system down.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it, I'm okay with this. One, it's being done in one country to start with. Let's see how it goes. Two, Britain seems like they have a chance to get on the right track governmentally with Reform UK looking like they're going to be, if not might even be the absolute majority after the next election. Um, so
Yeah.
we'll
If
see.
UK could right itself, then there'd be hope.
Well, the
I'm not
mechanism,
convinced that they have the ability to do so because I don't believe the people in the UK truly want that. Because if they did, they wouldn't have been in this mess to begin with.
the mechanism for writing it is happening in the UK and in Ireland with with the English, the Welsh, the Scottish, and the Irish saying, "Wait a minute, we were here first." And uh,
Yeah.
well, Ireland kind of agree with saying Ireland for the Irish, same way as we're doing America for the Americans. Um, whether we succeed or not, we won't know until we get there. But it seems like thankfully we had the right political result here, which is bolstering other countries to do it, and you know we won't get Sharia law out of existence.
Well, not yet anyway. Just gotta wait for the presidency and Congress to flip the other direction, and then we'll see what we really actually have.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I'm not particularly fond of democracy, but that's a different story.
Well, no, that's why we're not a democracy. But
Thank God for that. But people believe it with their hearts for some reason.
we have a democratic form of implementation, but
We have democratic representation of a
well, no,
republic
we
system.
implement our republic via democratic means. But the foundational government is a republic, a constitutional republic, not.
Well,
Uh,
I know, but it's the fact is that the average person thinks that we're a democracy.
well, that's because they've been miseducated by the left wing
Well,
establishment.
by the government because the government runs the education for most things.
I
So
had
it's ironic.
the funniest example I have ever seen, and this was before I was way political. I went back to college in my 30s for home for a particular degree, and I had to take. They make you take, even though I was in an engineering track, they make you take like humanities classes every semester. So I'm doing my English 2 class because they wouldn't let me test out. I tested out an English 1, right? Or composition 1, or whatever it was called. Um, so I'm in this class, and like the teacher makes us watch a documentary by Michael Moore, and then this one girl who had a thing for me, I think, um, at least until she found out I was conservative, uh, was,
As you do.
and the funny thing is, her friend was hot, and I was interested in her friend. Not her. But anyway, um, like she comes out one day and goes, don't you know slavery is still legal in Mississippi? I'm like, what the fuck are you smoking? I literally said that out loud. You know, the teacher like, wait, Matt, you should listen to our viewpoint. And I'm like, I said, I already know what her viewpoint is because she watched another Michael Moore documentary because she's going on about how she loves his documentaries, where he's spreading that bit of misinformation. And she said, go, why do you enlighten our teacher here as to why you erroneously think that slavery is still legal in Mississippi? Because Michael Moore did a documentary because Mississippi never ratified the 13th Amendment. Okay, or they did it until like 1984 or whatever. You know, um, so and that, for those who are listening who don't understand, that's the one that outlawed slavery. Okay, uh, and she said, well, because they didn't pass the 13th Amendment, slavery was still legal in Mississippi. So Michael went around trying to sell slaves and all that sort of stuff, and I said to her, have you actually bothered reading the Constitution of the United States of America? And she goes, yeah, I know what's in the Constitution. And then, what did it say about amendments?
Press X to doubt.
Yeah. And she looked at me, what do you mean? How did a constitutional amendment like, the 13th that barred slavery get passed? And no one knew. Even the teacher who had an alleged PhD did not know this.
I mean, I'd say I'm shocked, but I'm really not.
You know, I explained to them. I went to the chalkboard in front of the whole fucking class and explained to them. I said, Article blah blah, section blah 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 says to pass an amendment, first you need 2/3 of Congress of both houses to vote for it. Then you need 3/4 of states to pass it. Or you need to do what's called a constitutional convention where the states convene it and override Congress. And 3/4 is still needed. And if either of these two things happen, the amendment becomes part of the Constitution and the law of all the land. And he goes, and that, dumbasses, is why slavery is not legal in Mississippi. And they didn't like me after that very much.
Well,
Well,
of course they didn't.
one dude thought I was funny as hell, but I deliver it with humor. But the girl, the girl who liked me didn't like me after that, and it was, and the teacher thought I was a little arrogant about it. She's goes, Matt he makes a good point, even when he delivered it arrogantly, and I'm like, how could you not deliver this arrogantly? Because
if everybody in the room, like 40 people, are being absolutely retarded,
in the United States
I'm
of
sorry,
America,
I
in all
couldn't be
50
not
states,
arrogant about it.
your high school education requires 2 years of U.S. history. 2 years of it.
Well, the funny part is that the one girl who was telling you like all this stuff, she was saying it arrogantly. And then when you say the opposite with actual facts, statistics, and sources, she's like, how could you be arrogant? It's like,
But the thing is,
very easily.
the thing is, she had a high school education. She has a diploma, and she never paid attention to history class. That's the most important document in the world, the U.S. Constitution. You'd think you'd pay attention during that chapter.
Believe it or not, most kids don't care about the history class. I was the exception. I did college history in 10th grade because I freaking love.
Well, I
history.
found U.S. history very boring.
Oh, I found it great. Well, not U.S. history. I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed all history.
But
so.
the point I'm getting is, in the important parts, like the wars and the law and the Constitution, those pesky little things, the important part, I paid attention because it might be important information later in my life.
Unlikely story. The real information is why didn't that dude put those connectors together for the NICU? Come on. I mean, I think
because you probably never pay attention to history class. That's why.
Probably. This is history repeating itself. I think it could have a positive outcome dependent upon several factors that I don't think we are privy to yet. And it also depends on, hopefully they'll keep it a public forum to where when they talk about something, when they get together twice a year, when they do that, we'll know what they're talking about and we'll know what each of them are saying. And then we can say, yeah, these people are on our side. These people are not on our side. So,
well, I don't know how it works in the UK. In the US, unless when you have something like this, unless there's a specific national security set for this, generally speaking, it's automatically public.
Sure, and that may be the case, but I also there's a public persona, and then there's the what they do behind dark, closed doors, kind of a thing. And as long as it stays public, and that's the actual result we're getting, then I think we could get some transparency. Maybe I don't know. UK's not been very transparent on many things,
Oh,
legally
no,
speaking.
folks are being run by communists right now.
Yeah, well, it's because communists don't like transparency. But all in all, we could have some cool outcomes. But that's all I really had today, and we kept the video under an hour, so I'm
Well,
good with
okay,
that.
so let's just
Don't go
spend a few more
expanding
minutes.
it an hour.
No, no. So let's just game plan this a little bit, right? Since we were both intelligent people,
Hey,
um,
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
and
Speak for
let's
yourself.
let's keep this to what we want in the U.S. because I don't give a shit what happens in most of the world as long as
Well,
the
yeah,
U.S.
but
is.
if it happens in another part of the world, it's going to probably happen here. That's how that
Well,
works.
what I'm saying is, what happens here should be the most influential part. Like we're the top of the hill, so to speak. Um, it's the reality of it. You know,
We're top of the
to,
hill, and we still get flooded.
to quote the king and I, when you're the king, you're the king. Or I should say Anna and the King of Siam. What do you want to call
I was going to say
the
every
modern
king
version?
ever.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so what I think, I've talked to my concern is always about anytime you open the door for the government, they will always go in, like they'll take that wedge and drive a fucking rhinoceros through it. And so what I would like to see is maybe a law that says, to make it real clear, um, you must state whether a game is online only or offline plus online when selling it. And if you state that, you must say at the end of lifetime, which must be defined when you publish a game, because it is a software. I don't know if you know that or not, but when you publish software like business software, you have to say what end of life is. Um, you don't have to do it with video games.
I
You
don't
have to
really
like
deal with that kind of software. So.
no, but you do like when like that's why if you ever see like Windows 11 or whatever has end of life plan in 2035, whatever the year is, you know, when you publish business side
Not
software,
soon enough.
well, no, just bear with me. Like you have to say this is our planned end of life and it's the time life cycle. So video games should fall under that rule too. So if you publish, King's Quest 17 or whatever, like you must say, well, we're playing the end of life this game in 2030. Doesn't mean you have to, but you know this at a time that we could do at any point in F 2030. This game will be online only, so there'll be no offline component. So once we go offline in 2030, it's gone forever, right? Or this game will be, um, or this game will be offline plus online. In which case, in 2030, the following will occur: we will not allow you to play it offline, or we will. In other words, you know ahead of time what's happening, right? And that I'd like to see. Now, whether you want to take the extent of saying that would be within the context of existing U.S. law, right? It wouldn't. It wouldn't give Congress or wouldn't give the government new power to drive the rhinoceros through, and because that's what always happened. The next step
The
is
bull in the china shop just
yeah,
breaking everything.
yeah. Because the next step that I didn't mention is as part of the law saying if the game has offline availability, you must make it available offline at end of life. That is opening a wedge hole under U.S. law to potential interference in your privately owned property. You know, and that little, I would, I mean, I get the point of why you'd want that, but um, I get the point why you would want that. You're right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm leery of. I mean, look what they did with pro-choice, right? They did. The idea was when they passed Roe versus Wade, well, even though it was illegal and abortion was legal in 26 states before Roe versus Wade, more than 26 actually. They did Roe versus Wade. They were like, oh, we're going to do it rarely. We just want to have just to
The
protect the
safe and
rights.
rare mantra. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And 30 years later, it's abortion for profit, right? You know,
It's abortion on
and
demand.
well, for profit.
Well,
Um,
they're doing it for profit, but it's for demand by everybody else.
And then look at the counter to that. So we overturn Roe versus Wade, right? And now the people who want to stop abortion are bitching because they don't have the power to enforce their viewpoint on everyone. And if they did that, right? Well, you know, I think if the point is, like, you can always see when you add something in that wasn't there, how you wreck you. Someone's going to try to drive that bull in the china shop thing, that run up through the door, whatever it is. And I mean, I think abortion for the most part is horrible, but I don't have I don't think the solution is lock it down so bad that raped 11-year-old girls can't get an abortion. You know, um, just because they could die from having a baby at that age.
I would say that this topic is getting a little too heavy for this video.
Well, sometimes in
By a
engineering,
lot, good
in
sir.
in engineering, we learn that you have to examine the extremes. Like, and we're talking about
Well,
voltages here. Like,
sure, but I'm not a political channel. I don't I
well,
don't I don't
but
dive into this stuff
but you know
politically
the examples
because
I'm bringing up. So bring up a
well,
less
yeah,
severe
I
example.
do, but the people watching may not. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying this isn't something that in my off time I wouldn't mind
We don't have to
chatting
talk
about,
about
but
abortion if you had an alternative way to express the same thing. You know, I'm saying all I'm saying is
we don't have to have the alternative either.
all I'm saying is, and I will conclude it, is we need to be very, very leery of giving, and we have a form of government that by design restricts government power. Okay,
Supposedly.
by design. Well, I mean, by design, but whether we have a politician to enforce it is
Yeah, no.
the issue. The issue. You know, we have to vote new politicians in. Like now, we have politicians who are enforcing it with the current administration at the federal level, right? But before we didn't. The point I'm getting is you should always think, and my final comment is, we should be very, very leery of anything we do with these laws that could potentially give government a new wedge in the door. And oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'll say one more thing. And they've been wanting their fingers in a video game pie since the
Well,
1980s.
yeah, because it's got the best industry in the world.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
wouldn't
because
you
they
want?
saw the
Why
money
wouldn't you
coming.
want your fingers in that
No,
big, huge
because it's
pie?
always the money. It's show me the money. They saw the money coming in the video game industry as
Well, when they say "show me the money," I say, "Let me show you the door." Let's
you
get the
know,
frick out of my area. But
you
yeah.
know.
Anyway, that's all I really had for this video because I was like, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. This may affect or not affect the Stop Killing Games movement. We don't know. Um, but if we can have at least some companies keeping a check on the stupidity of the other companies, then that might help. But all in all, I think the bigger the company, the dumber the decisions they typically make. Where the smaller companies, they're like, we can't afford to make dumb decisions, and if we do, we're closing down, which is what happens. But the ones that do the right stuff, they somehow they just magically do good. Valheim for anybody, but yeah, Pal World, and, all that kind of stuff. But when they do good, they really do good. So, but yeah, you got anything coming up, good sir?
Um,
Or retroactive, I guess.
can you hear the thunder?
No.
Oh, that's funny. If you're on my desktop mic, you'd be hearing it. Um, let's see. So tomorrow night on the Wednesday pass when you see this video, okay, um, we'll be discussing on Wednesday as overbooked. The like 20 freaking hours of pro wrestling has happened this weekend. Um,
That's a lot of wrestling.
yeah, I still gotta watch a lot of it. But uh,
20 hours to go.
yeah, you know, uh, Roman's show this week is the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I haven't watched that in years. I have to watch it again.
I've never watched it.
It's a good movie. It's based on a book too.
I've heard
Um,
that. I've heard it's okay. I just never have
no,
time.
it's a really good movie, but it's a product of its time. You know, like
Sure. War of
you
the
have to
Worlds and stuff.
when you watch like older science fiction, you have to accept that it's a product of its time in the sense that one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time, them, like the giant ants, dropping nuclear bombs like that does not make giant ants. You know what I mean? But
Don't ruin my dreams of Fallout.
yeah, it's the same thing with kaiju movies, right? Just because you nuke a lizard doesn't turn into Godzilla. You know?
Well, yeah,
Um,
he is the nuke. That's the whole point.
yeah. The thing I'm saying is, like, if you accept that a movie is a product of its time and thought structure, you could enjoy it.
Well,
You know?
it's silly like what if encounters really. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what if we dropped a bomb and ants turned into giant, huge
Well, there's a
ants?
lot of
It's like, well,
people.
yeah, there you go.
There's an amazing amount of people who have no imagination and don't know how to turn off their ability to suspend their sense of disbelief.
Well, that's because today, in this day and age, and I'll leave it with this because obviously we're getting close to an hour and I want to stop before an hour if ideally. But in this day and age, we've lost the ability to suspend disbelief because everything's gotten so ridiculous to the point where the things that we used to suspend our disbelief, like explosions in space, we can't do that anymore because there's like so many issues with every
Yeah.
film that comes out, and that's kind of killed the viewer's suspension
Oh,
of disbelief unless you just have like no thought process running in your brain at all ever. Then you can typically enjoy anything and everything. But when you're like, yeah, I am intelligent enough to know explosions don't happen in space, but it's still fun. Like that's the reason John Wick movies are fun. Like I realize this is extremely stylized violence, but I also realize that this is not going to happen in real life under the same
yeah.
exact circumstances, but it's still fun. But you can't do that now when you have people pulling the new modern Star Wars crap and everything. It's just like we're losing our ability to suspend
Yeah.
disbelief.
I forgot on my channel, I posted a review of James Gunn Superman.
Oh no.
No, I gave it about a 5.5 to 6.5 out of 10. You know,
I think my
it's a
wife
20-minute video.
I think my wife gave it like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But that's my wife.
Is she a comic book fan?
No. She just liked the romance.
Well, I could see that. I mean, okay. The reason this film isn't a lot better is because of atrocious writing.
Well, yeah, it's James Gunn,
Yeah.
not Tolkien.
Yeah. Well, no, he
I
had great writing in the first two Guardians of the Galaxy. He had great writing.
well, yeah, but I think Guardians is kind of his copy paste. Like he did really good with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then now everything else has to be like Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxy, and I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I don't
I
want Guardians
mean,
of the Galaxy humor in a
if you
non-Guardians
don't
of the
want to,
Galaxy universe.
I know you want to end the show. So if you want me to give you some more insight into this, or you can end the show and I can
We'll
drop
we'll
your numbers.
we'll do it later. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's gonna be it here, folks. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Check out Matt's channel if you're into wrestling, movie reviews, basic culture stuff. Check out Crimson Law. Also, will be in the description with Matt's channel. If you're into anime or any type of that, Japanese kind of cultural touch of stuff. Um, see if that's what you're into, and you can support me by supporting these guys. And yeah, so thanks everybody for hanging around, and we'll see you in the next one. Remember, I have streams on Tuesday nights, gaming streams on Tuesday nights specifically. I'd love to chat with you guys in the actual chat. I'd love to entertain you the best I can. I think we're still doing Fable 3. We're on, I think, our third episode. We'll see how much more of the game we have left. And then what we play is up to who knows. You guys get a vote for it in the Discord, so check out the Discord if you want that, and also for game giveaways and all that fun jazz. Memes if you like dad jokes, if you like Lord of the Rings memes, if you like dark humor, any of that good stuff. Also just fun people to hang out and just chill and do stuff together. So check out those things. And yeah, I think that's everything. So thanks everybody for hanging out. And remember, my friends, walk in the light.